GMX is a new enterprise resource planning solution from Geoprise Technologies. It has been architected to meet the requirements of the modern enterprise and built on modern technologies. ERP software has been around for a long time, so what's new and different about GMX? To answer that question, let's look at the fundamentals of what ERP systems do. The core of every working ERP system is its database, which stores information that is the lifeblood of a business enterprise. In the old days before computers, that lifeblood consisted of documents, purchase orders, invoices, packing lists, payments, ledgers, financial statements, and so on, that were drawn up on paper and stored in filing cabinets. Computerization allowed enterprises to represent these documents and many others electronically in a database, making them much faster, easier, and cheaper to organize, find, and retrieve. But computerization didn't happen overnight. Between 65 and 35 years ago, businesses focused on developing and deploying information systems to meet the needs of specific business areas or departments which would benefit the most from automating tedious back-office jobs. This meant that airlines focused first on reservation systems, banks on check clearing systems, and manufacturers on factory accounting systems. The limitations of this piecemeal approach became obvious as computerization took hold. It's difficult to share vital information when each department or business keeps its own database, and the resulting duplication of information is not only inefficient but also makes it impossible to maintain a golden copy which is a single version of the truth. To address these issues, the real innovation behind ERP software was the creation of universal data models spanning the entire breadth of an enterprise, within which any particular piece of shared information, such as a product master, is represented just once, in order to eliminate the costly duplication of information and preserve a single version of the truth. Starting about 35 years ago, a handful of commercial software developers began to coalesce, rationalize, and integrate disparate databases organized by business area or function into universal data models representing the information commonly shared within most enterprises. In tandem, they built software for entering, maintaining, processing, retrieving, reporting, and using that information by way of a consistent interface that helps people learn the system quickly and use it efficiently. This was the first generation of ERP systems. Their initial functional scope included finance and accounting integrated with sales order entry and fulfillment, procurement, inventory control, and material requirements planning, or MRP. For supply chain management, augmented with manufacturing data management, capacity requirements planning, or CRP, and shop floor control for manufacturing. When crafting a universal data model for a specific enterprise, a generally accepted rule of thumb is that half the model will consist of generic data structures that are common to most organizations, while another quarter will be industry-specific and the remainder will be unique to that enterprise. Realizing this and to fully exploit the potential market for ERP software, developers rolled out industry-specific editions and also expanded the generic ERP footprint into complementary business areas and functions such as warehousing, logistics, quality assurance, maintenance, and human resources. Importantly, these adaptations and enhancements were built upon or extended but did not alter or replace the architectural foundations of the original ERP offerings. Those foundations, in turn, reflected business strategies and operating models prevailing 35 years ago, when most everyone held stock in trade at their own production plants, warehouses, distribution centers, and retail outlets. Of practical necessity, the only exceptions were consigning goods to freight carriers for shipment or temporarily sending work in progress to subcontractors for specialized processing that couldn't be done economically in-house. This is because most industrial enterprises were vertically integrated 35 years ago, meaning that they owned and controlled manufacturing capacity at multiple stages of production in their supply chains, from resource extraction or manufacture of raw materials to finished goods production and even tertiary services such as consumer finance. Big oil firms, for example, were directly engaged in the entire supply chain, from upstream exploration and extraction of crude oil to downstream production and distribution of refined petroleum products. Similarly, drug makers' operations spanned the production of active pharmaceutical ingredients in bulk, batch formulation, bulk tableting, patient dose packaging, and wholesale distribution. Airlines took responsibility for maintaining their own fleets. Even Apple made its own logic and circuit boards, sub-assemblies, computers, keyboards, and mouse devices. Not one of top 20 industrial firms 35 years ago remains on the global top 20 list today. They have been displaced by a new breed of modern enterprises, including Apple, the world's most valuable industrial firm, followed by Saudi Aramco, Tesla, Nvidia, Taiwan Semiconductor, Samsung, J&J, Kwaicho Moutai, Moe Hennessy, Louis Vuitton or MHLV, and P&G. Only half bill themselves as vertically integrated. The others are horizontally integrated, having diversified by pursuing acquisition, innovation and marketing strategies, while outsourcing production and logistics, like Apple, or specialized by increasing production at the same part of the supply chain, like Taiwan Semiconductor, which designs and manufactures microchips. The outsourcers create enterprise value as manufacturing principals who own but rarely touch the inventories of raw materials, semi-finished goods and finished goods that they procure, make and sell. Apple, for example, began relying on contract manufacturers to make its computers in 1996. Today, most of Apple's products are assembled by Foxconn, a subcontractor, and Apple is Taiwan Semiconductor's largest customer. The inventories which Apple owns and needs to track in its ERP system are physically staged within Apple's external supply chain, at subcontractors like Foxconn and Taiwan Semiconductor, and also at third-party logistics providers. Having originally been designed and built for vertically integrated enterprises, the universal data models underpinning legacy ERP systems are architecturally incapable of tracking inventory situated at multiple points within external supply chains, as is the case for outsourcers like Apple. That's because the scope of those data models is limited to internal operations and accounts. And that's not all. Those universal data models are also incapable of tracking and managing customer-owned stock situated at an enterprise's own premises, as is the case for subcontractors and third-party logistics providers like Foxconn, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Amazon. That's because they link each facility, plant, inventory, organization, location, or site to one and only one business entity, company, legal entity, or subsidiary, for the purpose of determining who owns the inventory. These limitations render the database foundations of legacy ERP systems unsuitable for the operation of modern enterprises, which require a comprehensive view of their external as well as internal supply chains, plus full visibility of customer and vendor-owned stock in addition to their own stock at their own premises. By contrast, the most that ERP systems derived from legacy data models can do is provide an enterprise with visibility of its own stock within its internal supply chain and accounts. GMX is new and different because its architectural foundation was laid in the 21st century, not 3 to 4 decades ago like the legacy ERP systems still in use today at 3 of every 4 enterprises. The architectural core of the GMX ERP system is a common set of reusable data models, published in 2001, which was compiled by best-selling author, consultant, and speaker Len Silverstone. The contours of modern horizontally integrated enterprises were already clear by the turn of the century and motivated a significant number of new universal data models which Silverstone added to his original and hugely successful 1997 edition. They were the first comprehensive representations of an enterprise's entire supply chain, external as well as internal, and also the first universal data models to allow any number of parties, the enterprise running the ERP system together with its customers and suppliers, to own the inventory situated at each point in the supply chain. The key innovation is to replace static hierarchies comprising business entities, companies, legal entities, subsidiaries, facilities, plants, inventory organizations, locations, and sites with a dynamic collection of inventory items, each representing the fungible quantity of a good at a specific place that is owned by a particular party. Another thing that makes GMX ERP new and different is that we first introduced it in 2007 as a pure web application. But the internet as we know it today did not exist when legacy ERP systems were first built 35 years ago. Technically, those legacy systems ran exclusively on premises over internal corporate networks, even when designed and built as client-server applications. This makes them unwieldy or impossible to license on a subscription basis in the cloud, where modern enterprises increasingly prefer to run their business applications. In fact, half of the legacy ERP systems still in use today are not available through software as a service or SaaS subscriptions. As a modern web application which has only ever been deployed in public or private cloud infrastructure, GMX is instantly, economically, and securely deployable software as a service available through AWS or Amazon Web Services. AWS is far and away the most popular vendor in the cloud infrastructure services market. Its market share currently exceeds the combined total of all the other major vendors, including Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, and IBM Cloud. GMX as a pure web application also allows GeoPrize customers to take advantage of leading-edge technologies which would be difficult if not impossible to utilize with legacy ERP systems. Most notably, GMX is the first and only ERP application in the world to incorporate built-in blockchain technology in order to neutralize security threats when collaborating with external parties and to keep data permanent, tamper-proof, and verifiable. As just one example of what this means for modern enterprises running GMX, consider how businesses receive and pay money. 35 years ago, over 85% of payments were made by paper check in the United States. So it's no surprise that paper check printing, settlement, and reconciliation were the main or only payment processes supported by legacy ERP systems. Now, however, the share of payments made by paper check has declined to about 8% in the United States. The great majority of payments are now made and received electronically, mostly over the internet, using the Automated Clearinghouse, or ACH, system, debit cards, credit cards, wire transfers, and even cryptocurrencies. Because the workflows and enabling technologies differ significantly between each of these methods when initiating, approving, settling, and reconciling electronic payments, GMX is designed and built to support each one. From its inception, GMX has provided built-in subsystems and capabilities supporting business-to-business and business-to-consumer e-commerce not found in any legacy ERP system, including a supplier portal, content management, online surveys, and shipping and shipment labeling by courier such as FedEx or Amazon. Most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic forced a great many ERP system users to work from home, and evidence is growing that a significant proportion of the back-office workforce will continue to do so even after the pandemic subsides. Because GMX is a responsive web application that runs in any browser on any desktop computer, laptop, or smartphone, GeoPrize customers encountered none of the technical limitations and security issues encountered by many enterprises attempting to access their legacy ERP systems remotely. Returning to that rule of thumb I mentioned earlier, our long experience confirms that a standard ERP system, no matter how well designed, can never completely meet all of an organization's business requirements, considering that a quarter of the underlying data model will be industry-specific and another quarter will be unique to each enterprise. Yet the ugly truth is that many of the ERP software as a service offerings available today are difficult or impossible to customize or extend. This is particularly true for offerings targeting small and medium enterprises. GMX differs from these offerings because it is built using a framework which allows GeoPrize customers to customize or extend GMX in any manner they choose, from customizing the layout of standard screens and reports to adding new forms, reports, data processing capabilities, interfaces, and even entire subsystems as needed to streamline business operations and gain competitive advantages. On AWS, customer-specific forms, reports, interfaces, customizations, and enhancements are completely isolated from those of the other tenants and do not touch the standard GMX software components in any way. In closing, let's review what's new and different about GMX, our modern ERP software for the modern enterprise. First, its data model was designed in the 21st century, not decades ago like most other ERP systems. It supports horizontally integrated enterprises by providing complete visibility of the entire supply chain, including inventories owned by the enterprise and its trading partners. Second, it's a pure web application which has only ever been deployed in the cloud. GMX software as a service is available by subscription from AWS. Third, as a pure responsive web application, GMX allows modern enterprises to take full advantage of leading-edge technologies that aren't compatible with most legacy ERP systems. And fourth, it's readily customizable and extensible to meet unique industry and customer requirements. Thank you.